I was a bit concerned to find plant roots growing through the holes at the bottom of the grow bags and through the ground cover fabric into the soil below. We had intentionally placed these large grow bags over fabric like this to prevent the roots from growing into the soil so that they would not pick up the Verticillium wilt spores that I suspected are in the soil of this polytunnel. This disease can badly affect some of the crops that we wanted to grow in this polytunnel, and I thought that the bags placed in the fabric would be a good solution. And it also seemed like a good opportunity to experiment with growing large plants in this type of container rather than in the soil of the polytunnel beds. I was pleasantly surprised how well the plants grew, apart from some issues caused by not watering enough and some airborne fungal diseases. The early crop of courgettes or zucchini became large plants and produced a lot, and one plant is still going 7 months after transplanting. The late crop of cucumbers that replaced most of the early courgette plants also did quite well, producing a lot quite late in the season, and the late crop of climbing beans also did quite well. I think with all these plants, the additional warmth of the grow bag probably helped. When we finally removed the plants, I lifted a few of the grow bags to examine the roots growing out of the holes at the bottom of the container, and most of them sprout out over the surface of the fabric. But there were a few larger roots that found their way through the woven plastic strands of this fabric into the soil below. With so many tiny branching roots, it's not surprising that some of them found their way through the fabric, and as they developed into significantly thicker roots, they are likely leading to a lot more roots in the soil below. This was what I was hoping to avoid, as I didn't want to risk the Verticillium wilt spores being picked up by the roots of these susceptible plants. But I didn't notice any signs of this disease on any of the plants, so perhaps the bags over the fabric helped in some way, even though some of the roots got through to the soil. So the main aim of using grow bags like this over ground cover fabric was successful, as we were able to grow susceptible plants above potentially infected soil and ended up with lots to harvest, even though I don't fully understand why. But the experiment of seeing how well aggressive plants like this would grow in the confines of large container was inconclusive. I don't know how much these plants relied on the roots that were contained within the grow bag itself, or from what they could get from the roots that made it into the soil below the fabric barrier. But this experiment was successful enough to try again next year with these large susceptible plants in grow bags, and I think we should try placing some of the bags over several layers of fabric and some directly on the bare soil to see what happens.